Remind you that Nadia Hadad comes from Brussels. She represents ENIL. She is an activist, and she has been for many years now, in favor of the rights of people with functional diversity and for independent living. So very shortly we shall see her presentation.
Yeah, good morning all of you. I'm sorry for all this inconvenience before. Yeah. So by the time they put the PowerPoint on, I will, do you hear me clear? Okay, good. So as Kapka already, I will first of all thank Ismail and the organization for inviting ENIL to be part of it and to co-organize a little bit. So really happy to be here because we are not here to convert already, to preach in front of the converted ones. We are here just to remind ourselves what we can do, how we can enforce each other, how we can learn from each other, and how we can support each other in order to make really independent living a reality for all of us. So Kapka already represented ENIL and what we do. So I will just go, I don't know how we will manage to change the slides. Okay, my assistant maybe. Okay. Ja? Gaan we naar de volgende. Okay, so I'll go directly to the independent living principles that I would like to remind ourselves. We spoke about self-determination. We spoke about self-representations. We spoke about choice and control and about deinstitutionalization. But in order to stay out of the institutions, we need to have the opportunities and to have the real capacity to be well informed about our rights, but also to be informed about what services exist and what kind of choice we can make in order to be able to participate as equal as all the other citizens inside the society and be part of it and to live really independently. So what does we do also at ENIL? So we work a lot, Kapka already mentioned the Freedom Drive, because it's really important to show that we are there. I also get inspired by our Norwegian colleague. They have each year the Pride Strong and Visible Parade in May, and no, in June. It's always in June. They all come out, and it's also very mainstream. It's not only about disabled people coming out on the street. They are supported with the whole network, everybody who's involved. Those who work with them, but also the family, but also the friends, and also people in society who are there, because we need to work on that paradigm shift, that we are not considered as those who are really always are reclaiming to be supported or having aid needs, but people are just regular citizens like them. So we have already also a lot of people just misuse the terminology of independent living, of inclusion, but happily now we have I think later on Stig will speak about the general comment on Article 19, that the committee of the CRPD, wherein they really stipulate the use of the right terminology, because using the same thing as we want it to be understood is really important. But I think that he will come on this. I will just now a little bit speak about what are ENIL her strategic objective. There's a lot of text on the PowerPoint, but I will just pick. So we work a lot on Article 19 and on the general comment that will be elaborate later on. We will also ensure that all our members are informed about the developments that happen on European level, because sometimes we have legislation, we all have the CRPD, but it's not implemented like we want. The laws does not change as soon as we want, because we need really legal legislation to change in order to be able to reclaim our rights. Going to court is still a very big barrier. So if we have European resolution, then we have something that can enforce us. And that's something that we really work on. We also try to monitor the progress of independent living at European level. So comparing different countries and see where we regress, sadly enough, and where we progress. So we also make resources on how to implement Article 19. And the general comment. So we, as Kapka said before, we organize a lot of webinars. We also want to ensure that different stakeholders have a better understanding about the CRPD about independent living, but especially about human rights and the right model of disability. And so also we want to mobilize individuals, organizations, and institutions on all European countries to participate in the European Independent Living Day, and that's the 5th March, like we saw already that in Portugal they celebrate. So one of the first and biggest objectives is that we influence the policy making on practice at European level. How does we do that? We draft a lot of position papers, and we attend meetings with European Union policies and decision makers. We try to follow everything what's relevant with independent living. We work very closely with reporters on the European Pillar of Social Rights. We don't want them only to speak about the data about how many people with disability are having access to employment or access to education. We want really this great data. We know how many people, how, why they are not there, why are still working in sheltered workspaces, why they are still not representative enough, why does the quota are still that a lot of national institutions, they have a quota of engaging persons with disability in mainstream workplaces, but they don't fulfill it. So why it's all this? Because this European semester is a report that the European countries need to provide every 6 months. So if they give us the concrete data, we can see how it progress or regress every 6 months. But for the moment, it's still not clear. So we still lobby on that. We have also the multifunctional financial framework of Europe. A lot of money is going still to member states and still going through the member states to institutions and to old-fashioned support services. So we are really trying to have some impact on it, especially now they are working on a new framework. And we really want to be sure that the money goes in the right direction. We also work on the European Disability Strategy, and that's a kind of disability plan. But this one that actually is functioning was elaborated before that the European Union ratified the Convention on the Right of Persons with Disability. So we don't have really human rights indicators in it. So they are working they are doing a kind of report on what they achieved already, but we really want them for the next disability strategy to make it really align with the CRPD, to make really very clear indicators what they want to achieve and how it is for the moment, and how the countries should take up their responsibility to make a difference. We also work with the Council of Europe, and we also work on the disability card that for the moment is still functioning on leisure and access to culture, but we need something more strong. For example, if you go from one country to another in Europe, you still you are not recognized as a person with disability because the assessment from one country is different than another. We really want that if you are recognized in one European country as a person with having a disability, that you can, wherever you go to Europe, just like the other citizens, that you are recognized as a person with disability and that you can benefit of all the social and the social services as at the same level as all the others. So we also prepare input from consultations on direct relevance to independent living. We publish our newsletter and try to really inform our members about it. And we try also to work with a lot of more mainstream organization to be sure that the disability perspective is also taken into consideration. Another thing that we do, so we are working very closely also with the CRPD committee. And when they were preparing the General Comment 5, they outsourced a study to ENIL to work on the barriers of independent living worldwide. And they took it happily a lot into consideration. We also try to promote independent living during the countries who have the presidency. And for example, for the moment, it's Austria. So we really want to go to Austria, and we are going in November the weekend of 15, 16 and 17 November, we will be in Austria and try then, together with our local members, promote more independent living and put it in a picture. We tried to do it also when it was the presidency of Bulgaria, but there was a kind of, and Kapka can give you more explication about it, a kind of a seminar about the importance of having a center of independent living that is taken into consideration on national level, but is still a big struggle. So also we are part of a lot of other relevant expert group, like the high level group on disability, where ENIS is at the moment in Brussels. There we have a lot of people from the member states. We have a representative from Spain or from all member states who come and they speak about disability issues. But sadly enough, they speak about how they struggle as national governments on how to implement the CRPD instead of taking really their responsibility and putting everything in line to the CRPD. So they come there to exchange. And there are also representatives of the civil societies in order to try to put also the perspective of persons with disability on it. So we go to a lot. There is also the European Day of Persons with Disability that will be held this year in the beginning of December. And I hope that some of you can attend, because it's up to your European MEPs who are able to invite you to come to those days. And for those who are interested, they can always contact also EDF, because they are doing the secretary. So they invite people to come to Brussels on the 3rd and the 4th of December to speak about, for example, the finance. I think this year the topic will be how to finance the disability movement. What else do? We have a campaign for the moment about the EU funds for all rights. And this campaign is a campaign about, there are a lot of European structural investment funds that the member states take. Normally it's supposed to be used to realize deinstitutionalization and to promote independent living. But the reality is something very different. For the moment, for example, Hungary is building down an institution where 2,500 persons are living in, but they are building small institutions with 50 people, and they call it small group houses, and they are dislocated 200 kilometers from where people were living before. And the National Council of Persons with Disability in Hungary is only concerned about how the family is going to go and be able to visit their family members inside the institution, instead of reclaiming that money and realizing personal assistance services that could help the people to stay living inside the family. So the mentality is still very, very, very old-fashioned, and people, even inside the disability movement, is a big struggle, because the National Council was okay with it. They were just struggling, should we put some public transport to attend those small group houses or not, instead of realizing the general comment, who said no input anymore in the institution. We should do a transition from institutional care to community-based services, and that's something we still need to work on. And also something else, they're for the moment working on the new conditions about how to allocate that European structural investment funds. And I hope that we are for the moment trying to be sure that in it also civil society and organizations of persons with disability can reclaim funding to be part of that transition from institution to community care services, and that they also can be funded and be part as active members to use those funds in the right way and to establish services like Norway, for example, like Iloba does, and in other countries. So what are we doing in this campaign? We try to support our members to better monitor the use of those structural funds. We have it also in Hungary. It's not only about Hungary. We have them also in Bulgaria. We have them in Croatia. We have them in a lot of countries. In Spain as well. And like I think most of you know, it still goes to the big organization and it still doesn't promote independent living like it's supposed to do. So we try to advocacy with them and to write letters. We also try to see how we can facilitate the complaint mechanism. We want people, when things are not used, that they denounce it. It's difficult for us to go to court. It's asking us a lot of money, but we can make short videos. We can register it. We can post them. Even it's hard, even if you're struggling already with only with things, day-to-day things. Yeah, okay. It's really important then that we reclaim our rights through it. So you will have the PowerPoint afterwards, so you can read in details all about it. But we are also part of the Alliance Against Cuts, because we see now, due to a lot of restriction, the funding that goes to persons with disability is increasing more and more. So we try on European level, try to say it's about human rights. So please try to respect and try to apply at least the standstill principle, that nobody regrets. We have our human rights that we need to reclaim. And so it's not about money. It's about being able to live inside the society. So we're also working for the moment on a memorandum for the European elections, and also trying to work together with others to use the law as a tool. I will switch all of this. We have also a lot of partnerships. I mentioned already the study that we have done, that you can see afterward. So a lot of the recommendation that I can close with is keep on lobbying on legislation and funding, because the access to support, such as personal assistance, should be a legal right to ensure that all who needed support can get it. And then also we should work more that community-based services become also accessible for us. We need also to have mobile services that can come to our places and that can go with us outside our places. The service should not be limited to where we live, but we should go also with us wherever we want. Peer support is also something very important, that we can exchange experience like today and tomorrow, I hope so. We need accessible housing. We need also a different affordable housing options. And then also the last thing that I will end with is, it's very important. We always speak about nothing about us without us, and also the SDGs about leave no one behind. But for that, we need really to be legally involved from the beginning. When there is something new, when there are new legislation in the making of, we need to be part of it from the conception, from the thinking, until the realization of it, until the monitoring of it. So, and also self-advocates, nobody else should speak instead of us. We should emancipate ourselves to be able to speak for ourselves, and taking all the disabilities in it. It's not only about physical disabilities, it's not only about intellectual disabilities, it's all people who have a disability that need to be emancipated to be able to speak about themselves and to be involved at all levels. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm around if there are any questions to make it a little bit more interactive, and thank you for your attention.